I will now begin a lecture on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. This Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita-upanishad. It is the essence of all Vedic literatures. It is included within the greater epic work Mahabharata, and it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My spiritual master instructs that the Bhagavad Gita, which comprises 18 chapters and 5 subject matters, the middle 6 chapters are the most confidential part of the text. The first 6 chapters and last 6 chapters are protective coverings for the middle 6 chapters because they are most confidential. Confidential knowledge is taught in the beginning, in the 2nd chapter, where Krishna begins his instructions of transcendental knowledge, distinguishing between matter and spirit, sat, asat, between the body and the soul, and the difference between material and spiritual. So that is confidential knowledge. More confidential knowledge is description of Param Atma. Param Atma means the superior soul, God, dwelling in the heart of every living entity, actually within every atom of existence. Param Atma is existing. That is called more confidential knowledge. And then most confidential knowledge deals with Bhagavan, the Supreme Person who resides in the spiritual abode, beyond this material manifestation, which Krishna mentions a few times in the Bhagavad Gita, that his abode is beyond both manifest and in unmanifest material nature, vyakta, avyakta. And his abode is Sanatan Dham, the eternal abode. And it is not needed to be illumined by the sun, the moon, fire, or electricity. His abode is self-luminous. He gives a hint in the Bhagavad Gita. And if we want to know more about this Sanatan Dham, then we need to read such literatures as Srimad Bhagavatam and the Brahma Samhita. So that description of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, and his relationship with the living entities, because we have an eternal relationship, ever-existing relationship with Bhagavan. That is the most confidential knowledge, Parama Guyam. Most confidential, most mysterious. So, the middle 6 chapters, beginning with chapter 7, deal with the most confidential knowledge. I'd like to recite, I will speak on the first 3 verses of chapter 7. Chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita is known as knowledge of the absolute. This word absolute is defined by Sutta Goswami in the 2nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the scene is 5,000 years ago roughly. The sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, are assembled in this holy place, which is considered to be the hub of the universe. The Creator Lord Brahma envisioned the whole universe, and the hub of this whole universe is found in Naimisharanya. And these sages are doing a 1,000 years long sacrifice for the benefit of the people of Kali Yuga, us. We are the residents of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga began the very day Krishna disappeared from this planet and returned to his Sanatan Dham in the spiritual sky. From the day Krishna left this planet, Kali Yuga began. So these sages are doing a sacrifice for 1,000 years just to benefit us, because this Kali Yuga is the age of quarrel, hypocrisy, cheating, sin, avarice, all the bad qualities. Kalaya dosha nide rajan asti hieko mahan guna. Shukadeva Goswami, when finishing his instructions to Parikshit Raj, he says to the king, "My dear king, the age of Kali is simply an age of faults, an age of bad things. But there is one good quality about the age of Kali. Only one. Asti hi eko mahan guna. Only one good thing, Shukadev says, that he can ascribe to this age of Kali, which lasts for 432,000 years, of which we have only passed 5,000. And it's only going to get worse. We can hardly imagine. We know how bad things are now. It's going to get worse. So therefore, we should finish up our business here and return to Sanatan Dham, Krishna's eternal abode. So what did Shukadev say? Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. The kirtan of Krishna. That is the only good thing available in Kali Yuga. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. Eva, certainly, must. Kirtanad, of the kirtan, by the kirtan, but Krishnasya. Whose kirtan? Krishna. He specifically says, Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. That is very significant. That Shukadev pointed out. It is the kirtan of Krishna. Eva, only. Mukta Sangha Parang Vrajet. If we do Krishna Kirtan, Mukta Sangha, we become liberated from material existence. Parang Vrajet, and we go to the Vaikuntha, the Sanatan Dham, the abode of Krishna. So before I recite and speak on these first 3 verses of chapter 7, my good Bengali friend, who I appreciate very much, he can do one dun or bhajan as he likes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So over the years, I have gone through this Bhagavad Gita, and I broke it out into so many subsections according to the theme. So the first 3 verses of chapter 7 I call Knowing Krishna. I will recite the Sanskrit for the first 3 verses and then explain. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Sakta Mana Partha Yogunyunjan Madasrayam Asanshayam Samagrang Mang Yatha Gyasya Tat Srinu Gyanang Tehang Sabhigyanam Idang Vakshyamya Sheshata Yajgyatva Neha Bhuyong Yaj Gyatvatyam Avashisyate Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye Yatatam Api Siddhanam Kaschin Meyang Veti Tatvataha. So, the chapter is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. The Absolute, we already described. It is a non-dual substance. Material energy is dualistic. Heat and cold, good and bad, left, right, wrong, man, woman. So much duality. But the Absolute, there is no duality. Therefore, the Sanskrit word Advaitam, non-dual. So, this non-dual substance, when Sutta Goswami was describing it to the sages of Naimisharanya, he said that this non-dual substance is realized in 3 different progressive features. These 3 features depend on the level of one's advancement in spiritual understanding. Not just knowledge, but one has to have vijnanam, realization. So these 3 different features of the one absolute truth is dependent on your ability to perceive. The first one, Brahman. Brahman means the all-pervasive spiritual energy. This all-pervasive spiritual energy is the resting place of all existence. And further is Padam Atma, Krishna in the heart. And then Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulences. So these are the 3 progressive features of realizing the Absolute. Brahman and Paramatma realizations are incomplete realizations of the Absolute Truth. Complete realization of the Absolute is when one realizes Bhagavan. And that is going to be mentioned in this first verse. So Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. In the last verse prior to this, at the end of Krishna's dissertation and summary of the yoga system, Arjuna asked a question, and Krishna responded, yes, there are many different kinds of yogis. Hatha yogi, Raja yogi, Kriya yogi, Karma yogi. There are so many different kinds of yogis. And Krishna said, but the best yogi is the one, yoginam api sarvesham madgitein antaratmana sraddhavan bhajate yomang same yuktatamo mataha. Krishna said, in my opinion, the topmost yogi is one who has complete faith in me, Sraddhavan. Just like Bhagavan. Van means possessor of. Bhagavan, possessor of all opulence. That is God. And Sraddhavan means possessor of faith. The concept of faith is dealt with in chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita. And he says there are divisions of faith. There is faith in the mode of goodness, faith in the mode of passion, and faith in the mode of ignorance. And this faith is dependent upon the things, places, and persons we associate with. According to our association, we develop a particular kind of faith. So Krishna said, one who is faithful to me, one who has complete faith in me, one who is always thinking of me within the heart with great care and attention, he is the topmost yogi. That is why Lord Chaitanya Dev, he said the greatest yogis are the devotees in Vrindavan, namely the gopis, who are always thinking of Krishna in ecstatic love. They are not forcing themselves, they're not practicing any kind of yoga or meditation to come to the stage of samadhi. Lord Chaitanya Dev says, no, the gopis are naturally always thinking of Krishna, no matter what they're doing. Even they're doing their household chores, the gopis are constantly in meditation on Krishna. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, the greatest yogi are these gopis of Vrindavan, who have unreserved and uninterrupted a love and devotion, and they cannot but think of Krishna. Even they try to forget Krishna, because sometimes thinking of Krishna for them becomes very painful. Even Srimati Radharani, she sometimes says that I want to stop thinking of Krishna, but she can't. Even she wants to, because she is feeling too much separation, and let me stop thinking. She can't. It's impossible for her to not think of, it's impossible. So therefore, Radharani and all the gopis, even if they wanted to, they cannot help but think of Krishna. So the 6th chapter ended like that, where Krishna said the greatest yogi, yoginam api sarvesham, are the ones who have complete faith and trust and love for me. So now this 7th chapter begins where chapter 6 leaves off. Krishna says, O son of Pritha. Pritha, of course, is Kunti Mata, Kunti Devi. She has her 5 sons, the Pandavas. But here, son of Pritha refers to Arjuna, because he is hearing Bhagavad Gita on the chariot. before the battle is about to begin, because Arjuna has not yet begun to fight because he has so many doubts and concerns. So Krishna has to speak Bhagavad Gita so that Arjuna will begin the fight. He's not going to fight until all his doubts are removed. Bhagavad Gita is that book which removes doubt. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, these doubts of mine are like demons. They're causing me great distress. So Krishna is very expert at killing demons. From the time Krishna was an infant, he was killing demons. The first infant, the first demon, when Krishna was 1 month old, Putana, Rakshashi, Kechari witch came to kill Krishna. So right from his very birth, Krishna had to contend with so many demons. But in each and every case, Krishna came out victorious. So Arjuna wants Krishna now to kill these demons of doubts. So that is why Krishna is speaking and answering his questions. So Krishna says, now Arjuna, hear from me. Touch Srinu. This is a very significant line. Touch Srinu. Try to hear. This is what is the process of spiritual knowledge. The guru speaks to the disciple. The disciple simply has to listen and receive. Therefore, Krishna did not he did not instruct Bhagavad Gita until Arjuna accepted him as guru. Up until that time, Krishna was Sarathi, chauffeur, chariot driver. But the turning point of Bhagavad Gita, Shishyasteham Shadimang Tvam Prapannam. Krishna said, don't be my friend, be my guru. I am your disciple. So when Arjuna spoke like that, then Krishna assumed the position of guru and begins to instruct Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2, verse number 7. Karapanya doshopahata swabhava prichchami dharma samudacheta. I want you to tell me decisively what I should do. For instance, if you get into some legal implication, you're not going to try to solve it yourself. You're going to go to some expert lawyer who will guide you how to get out of this legal difficulty. Because on your own, you don't know the law as well as a lawyer, and you don't know all the tricks of the trade. So an intelligent man finds an expert lawyer to help him extricate himself from legal. It's like our president, Mr. Trump, right now, is doing exactly that. He's over his head. The indictments are coming, investigations are coming. What has he done? Hired an expert team of lawyers. So the spiritual master is a transcendental lawyer or professor. He has the knowledge, and the disciple simply receives it through the ear. Therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna now, we're beginning this most confidential section. Try to hear. Same way here. My language may be a little difficult for you because you're used to Hindi or Bengali. I speak Americanese, Inglesi. So it may be difficult, but just try. That's all, I beg. Just try to hear. That's because you're very merciful. Now try to hear, O son of Pritha. How? By practicing yoga in full consciousness of me. Again, referring to the previous verse at the end of chapter 6. Yoga, but what kind of yoga? Yoga which someone is constantly thinking of Krishna. That kind of yoga is known as bhakti. Bhakti yoga, which has 9 different limbs. You're doing the very first one, Sravanam. There's a nice song I like to sing, Bengali song. Sravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasyare Pujana Sakijana Atmanivedana Govinda Das Abhilashare. This Bengali poem is paraphrasing the statement of Prahlad Maharaj. When Prahlad was questioned by his demon father, Hiranyakashipu, his father said to the son, "What is the best thing you have learned in the school?" Because in that school, the teachers were teaching him the same thing everybody learns in the universities here in the West. Economics, diplomacy, science, math, all materialistic things. So when Prahlad was asked, Hiranyakashipu was thinking, oh, maybe he'll spout something, some nice materialistic education. Prahlad's response was, my dear father, what I'm learning in your school is all nonsense. What I have learned from my guru, Narada Muni, what I have learned, Sravana Kirtana, Smarana, hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, and he used the exact word Vishnu. Hearing, chanting, remembrance of Vishnu. And when Hiranyakashipu heard that word, he became outraged. Why? Because Vishnu was his enemy. Hiranyakashipu hated Vishnu because it was Vishnu who killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. So, from that very moment, Hiranyakashipu said, I will search throughout the whole universe. I will find this Vishnu and I will kill him. But he couldn't find him. Why couldn't he find him? Vishnu had hidden himself in Hiranyakashipu's heart. Because Vishnu said, he'll never find me there. He'll never think that I'm in his heart. So when Hiranyakashipu inhaled, Vishnu became invisible, hid himself in his heart. Hiranyakashipu looked all over the universe, could not find Vishnu. Later he came out as Nrsingadev and killed Hiranyakashipu. But the point is, Prahlad said the topmost education are these 9 processes of bhakti, which you are doing right now. Shravanam, hearing. And you were doing some chanting. Kirtanam. So this hearing is the beginning. I'm doing 2. Sravanam, Kirtanam. Hearing and chanting. I'm also doing a 3rd, Smaranam. Because what I'm speaking is not written down. I'm speaking from memory, depending on Krishna to remind me of all the things I studied over the past 40 years. Since I began this spiritual journey in 1973 at the age of 23. Now I'm 67. But this knowledge has taken me, oh, so far. So nice this knowledge has taken me. So by how practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, then you can know me in full. Now that is significant. Hare Krishna. This is significant. Krishna is telling Arjuna, you can know me in full. Now, this has to be understood in context. Because even Krishna himself doesn't know himself in full. When Krishna sits down and says, now I'm going to meditate and think about myself, he realizes he's expanded and has discovered a new potency. Because Krishna's qualities and potencies are ever increasing. So there's always something new Krishna discovers about himself. So even he does not understand himself completely. He doesn't even understand Radha Thakurani completely. So there, although God, we always say God knows everything, there's a disclaimer. Yes, he knows everything, but these exceptions. You know, on the TV, when they're advertising those new drugs, they say blah, blah, but then they say, but, you can't, blah, 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 and they say it real fast, and then all of a sudden you hear death. It's like, what? These new drugs can cause death. So when Krishna says you can know me in full, he's referring to those three features that I mentioned. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That's what he means by full. Because I said earlier, Brahman realization, Paramatma realization are partial. And realization of Bhagavan is complete realization. So, if you understand Krishna, automatically you have understanding of Brahman and Paramatma. Just like if you have $100, that means you have 10, 20. That's already included. So understanding of Bhagavan, so Krishna is saying, you practice this bhakti yoga in full consciousness of me, then you can know me in full. And then this word, asangshayam, free from doubt. Again, like I mentioned, Arjuna does not want to fight this war. He's full of doubts. And one by one, Krishna is eradicating the doubts. That's why at the end, when Krishna completes his instructions, he says to Arjuna, are you now free from doubt? Are you ready to act? And my spiritual master says, if necessary, Krishna would repeat the whole Bhagavad Gita just to convince Arjuna. But Krishna's immediate response, Arjuna's immediate response to Krishna, when Krishna asked him, are you free from doubt? Yes. My doubts are destroyed. And now I am ready to act as you like. Because Krishna said to Arjuna, Yate chasi tata guru. I told you everything, but it's up to you now. Do as you like. So what did Arjuna respond? I have heard, I accept, I'm ready to fight. Because repeatedly throughout Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna comes to a conclusion, therefore Arjuna, get up and fight. Because that's the whole, for Arjuna, the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to fight the battle. We all know Bhagavad Gita teaches spiritual knowledge. Bhagavad Gita teaches peacefulness, but not for Arjuna. Arjuna's Bhagavad Gita is, no, you got to get up and fight. We also have to fight. What's our fight? Ignorance, materialism, the evil things in our heart. We have to fight those things. Conquer the lower self by the higher self. That's mentioned towards the end of chapter 3. Therefore, by spiritual knowledge, you conquer that lower nature, and then you can live and exist on your higher nature. Because we are hybrid. matter and spirit. That is the human condition. We are a spirit soul inhabiting a material car, a yantra. Yantra rudhani mayaya. We're spirit, but we have a vehicle. So he says, you can know me. And he says, with mind attached to me. Unless you have some attachment, you cannot constantly think of something. There has to be attachment. So that is the secret of how to preach. The secret of preaching is how to get the audience attached to Krishna. That's my job. Describe in such a way that you become attached to the talks I'm giving on Krishna. Let's stop there. I want you to sing another one because I love your singing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.